Have you ever wished you could hit the reset button on your life and pursue your true passions? Have you hit your midlife and wonder what's next? But then the self-doubts, anxiety, and perhaps even imposter syndrome take over and you start doubting about your abilities and worth? Could a life after 50 be the beginning of an exciting adventure rather than the end of the road? Are you ready to shatter the myths that say you are too old to chase your dreams? Join me after the intro for a conversation with a very special friend with whom we will answer these and many more questions. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's start. Hi, I'm Rossana D, and this is Forgive and Thrive, a podcast where we explore what thriving in life means and how we can achieve it, irrespective of our past, current condition, and expectations that those around us or society in general may have. Let's go. Welcome to the Forgive and Thrive show. This year, I turned 24 for the 26th time in a row. And I must admit, it was a milestone that I didn't really look forward to. Approaching the age of 50 often marks a pivotal period in one's life, where the challenges of redefining one's identity and balancing responsibilities converge with the dreams and aspirations that have been quietly beckoning for years. This stage carries its unique set of challenges, and it often becomes a crossroads for individuals seeking to manifest their desires, navigate new horizons, and embark on an inspiring journey of self-discovery and empowerment. But it's also a time during which imposter syndrome can creep in, casting doubts on our abilities and worthiness. So today we delve into the societal pressures that stifle our dreams, the emotional and psychological hurdles that can trip us up, and the tangible limitations that can make our aspirations seem out of reach. But we also want to equip you with the tools and mindset shifts that are needed to turn your dreams into a reality. And we dive into this fascinating topic in a conversation with today's guest, Alicia Berberich. Alicia is a motivation and manifesting coach who is passionate about helping women unleash their true potential so that they can reach their destiny. She works with women to release the shackles that bind them to their old ways of thinking so they can achieve their goals. She uses motivation and manifesting skills to provide the resources her clients need to move forward with confidence and gusto. Alicia specializes in empowering women who have spent years dedicated to family duty, who are ready to unleash their true potential, and women who have spent their years caring for others, who have may lost the connection with their own desires and passion along the way. Hi, Alicia. Welcome to the Forgive and Thrive show. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you.
Fantastic. Well, this is, I think, a very important topic, and a lot of people, women and perhaps men as well, may be affected by, when we arrive at that time, 50 or around 50, when we start to think that perhaps we should have achieved more and we haven't, or we have desires that have been closed in a cupboard and we never looked at them for many, many years. So I think it's a very interesting conversation, really exciting to take a step on that path. But before we start, I would really like to start with you. And in particular, how did you approach this journey into coaching, and what was the landscape that you found yourself in?
It really came out of a need for wanting to be the best mother possible for my daughters. In the house that I grew up in, my mother was not a very caring or, she had her own way of doing things. And I ended up being very insecure and never felt good enough and was fighting a lot of demons. And I didn't want my daughters to be the same way. I wanted them to have confidence to really live the life that they are meant to live and not have all those demons. I really wanted them to be strong. So I thought if I studied this coaching, I'd been a psychology major in college and really loved that. And I thought if I learn to be a coach, I can really help guide them on a path that will lead them with greater strength. So that was what got me started, wanting my daughters to be the best they could be.
Well, that is fantastic, because when we start from our personal experience, and we are so much more motivated, perhaps in achieving something really good. So that's great. So let's start with defining this time. Everyone has their own understanding of what getting into the middle age for life is all about, but can you give us a sort of definition, if you like, of what are the challenges really, and what it means going through this period for most people?
Yeah, it's so different for different people. If you're a mom, this transition comes when your kids suddenly gain more independence, which could come when they get their driver's license. And before that, they were so dependent on you to take them to all their games or whatever they needed to do. And now all of a sudden they can take themselves. And then as a woman, you begin to feel like, oh, it's nice that they're independent. Now I have free time to do what I want to do. And then you think, what is it I want to do? You've spent so many years suppressing your own desires to take care of your family that it's hard to bring that out again. And also, things might have really changed during that time. I have a really good friend who was trained as an architect, and then she spent 20 years raising her kids, and now architecture is all done online, and none of that even existed when before she had her kids, when she was in the field. So things change, and then you get this inner dialogue of being not good enough and not knowing how to do it, and really learning to address that and overcome it is so pivotal for women. And another thing that really brings on the change is the own change that we're going through physically in our bodies, because we don't realize how much energy it takes to go through those monthly cycles that we have. And when our body is letting go of that, suddenly we have more energy to do things that, like, it releases creative juices. So we have a drive to do more and different things. So the combination of your body going through change, your environment changing, really is a time of great transformation for women. It's like they're coming out of the cocoon and can finally spread their wings to be what they want to be.
You mentioned a couple of times the word want. And I often talk with people, and I realize that understanding what we want is probably one of the most difficult things that we can achieve, because we know perhaps what we don't want, and we tend to associate what we want as the opposite of what we don't want. And these two things are often very different. So where do we start to understand what we want? Because we are different, right? You just said it.
Right.
We are different.
Right.
The person who was 20 or 30 years old and wanted to achieve X. So how do we understand what we want now?
And not only what we want, but where we can find our fulfillment. So I think that's really a great question. And for a lot of the women that I work with, that is really where we start ground zero of understanding what it is they want. And we really start that by looking at their core values and making sure they're really clear and grounded in their core values. And then I ask them to talk about different stories in their lives to pull out their strengths. Because a lot of times the things that we want are buried in things that we were interested in during our teenage years or early 20s before we had family and all these other things going on. So getting them to connect back with that inner burning desire is really helpful in getting them to understand what they want. And a third thing that's really helpful is in harnessing the power of meditation, in slowing your mind and letting go of all of the expectations that others have, and being able to really listen to your subconscious mind, which is, we spend so much energy suppressing that, trying to just get done everything we have to do for 20 or more years. And then suddenly when we have a little bit of free time, just letting that come up. And that takes a lot of practice and work, to be honest with you, because you've spent so much time suppressing it. Now just now saying, okay, I'm ready now. So getting that to come up. And it's really important for women to take the time for themselves. Like, self-care is another really important part to figuring out what you want, because we spend so much time taking care of everyone else that we're always in the last place. So really focusing on those things to go deep into yourself and find out what is that burning desire that you have. And it can be so different. Like, you can be spent having a long career in a corporate environment, and then it's become the definition of yourself. I have another really good friend who was in retail management for years and traveled and had a great job. But then when she was let go at 56, she was like, well, now what do I do? That had been her whole life for so long. And then she went back to exactly what she was doing in high school, which was art. And she had been collecting art paints and things for many years, but never had time to focus on it. So she just got those out of the closet and started. And now she has a thriving art practice teaching women how to do art online. So it's been really, really fun to see the evolution. But really, both grounding yourself in your value, looking back at the key stories in your life that you tell to pull out your strengths and what your interests are, and really being open to listen to what your body can tell you are really the key factors in finding out what it is you want deep inside.
You mentioned just now the stories that you have inside you. And sometimes we have a lot of stories that are really counterproductive and they don't really help, and they are just noise to find whatever we want to do. How do we get rid of those, and how do we distinguish between the stories that are really supportive of our dreams and what we would like to achieve, and those that are just noise?
Yeah. And I call that the negative voice in your head, or the inner critic, or some people know it as the imposter syndrome. And that noise can be so loud that you can't even think, because you've been hearing this voice for so long. And the thing is, a lot of people think that the voice is actually them and it's who they are at the core. And the beginning of the transition comes in realizing that that voice is just a very tiny little part of you. And you need to separate yourself from the voice and take control of it. The voice really developed between the ages of 0 and 6, when you really needed your amygdala to take care of you and protect you. So people would tell you things like, don't cross the street, which is very good advice to give a child like that. But then the child sees other people crossing the street and doesn't realize that why they can cross the street, but they're not allowed to cross the street. So then they think, oh, I'm not good enough to cross the street. And then it gets whittled down more into just that I'm not good enough. And then they begin taking that thought in their head and then translating it to all different aspects of their life. Like some women can be really good with money because they didn't apply it there, but they are really bad with relationships because they've learned or seen somehow that they were not good at relationships. So it's learning to hear the voice and separate it from yourself, to really acknowledge the voice. Is like, okay, I hear you. I know what you're saying. And then appreciate the voice. I know that you're here because you're trying to help me, but then tune it down by saying, I've got this. Like, I can do this. And then turn the voice down and then move forward with action. And that's really how you can gain control over that negative voice in your head. And there's some other tools that I work with on my clients to really help, because a lot of times for women, when something good happens in our life, we don't take the time to celebrate. And celebration really helps us to embody the good parts that we've done and the things that we've achieved. So really taking time to celebrate things in our life is important. And another thing that I encourage my clients to do is to keep a file of positive things that people have said or stories that they feel good about, so that when they're feeling that negative voice trying to take control, they can look at that file and realize, okay, that's maybe how I'm feeling right now, but that's not a global feeling. That's not how I am all the time. And realizing that it's a transition thing that you can move out of. So there are definite tools you can use to not let that voice control you.
Do you think that there is a part of that voice that can provide a constructive, feedback, for example, like a genuine self-doubt? And if so, how can we distinguish between what is a constructive feedback that comes from our past and our stories and experience, from something that is detrimental, like imposter syndrome, a true imposter syndrome?
Yeah, Rosanna, that's such an excellent question. And it's something that people ask me all the time. And it's really something that is so helpful to know, because if you have self-doubt or you're wondering about something, there's an element of curiosity in there. And you're asking yourself questions and trying to figure something out. But when you have the imposter syndrome or that inner critic, it's a harsh voice, and it's very black and white, and there's no element of curiosity. It's just saying you are so stupid, or what were you thinking? So it's a way that you would never actually talk to a friend or your child. It's just so harsh. And so learning to separate those with that element of curiosity, I think, is really key in that, to really separate that out.
I love that. I love the curiosity aspect of finding, new things to do and new ways of doing perhaps the same thing that you have been doing
Yeah.
across.
Yeah, and it comes with the growth mindset of wanting to learn and do things. So when you can differentiate when you're in a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, that really helps you to make the shift when you're feeling like, oh, I always do it this way, then think, well, maybe there's an opportunity to try something different. So that can shift your ways of being in the world. It's really helpful.
I would say that this is one element that propels us to move forward if we realize that we are growing in that experience. Are there other things that commonly become showstopper for people to go after what they want?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Those limiting beliefs are really a showstopper. And the thing is that a lot of the women need to overcome just the images they have of themselves. They see themselves in a certain light. For instance, when women are going applying for jobs, they need to be able to do almost 100% of everything in that job description to feel like they can even apply for the job, versus men think, if I could do 60%, it's fine, like I'll be able to wing it. But women are not winging it when they're going for job interviews. So just being open to the process of trying things out and applying for jobs that they didn't know to help them is really helps them to grow. And men seem to be hired for potential versus women for their track record and what they've done. So trying to look at jobs in a different way and presenting yourself in a different way of what kind of things you've learned in your past situations that can really apply and help them move things forward in the present situation, taking all the experiences that they've learned. And I think another thing that societal has that really holds women back from really reaching their true potential are I think it's more in the United States, because women are so concerned about healthcare and retirement. And in the United States, we don't have any safety factors there. If you want to leave your job to do something different, that healthcare factor is something that really keeps a lot of people tied to their job. So that's also something that's really preventing them from stepping into their full potential to be the best that they can be. So trying to find creative ways to overcome that is really helpful.
But creative, when you mentioned the word creative, the first thing that came to my mind is having like a second job or third job to manage the situation in a short period of time until things start to move along. While perhaps men are less keen on taking extra job, they just move into the new position or the new business.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I think you're right. I mean, women feel more that societal pressure of bringing something,
taking care of everything and everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Would you say that there are also cultural and other factors, that societal factors, for example, that can affect women more than men in just going for what they want after, especially after 50?
Yeah. A lot of times because your friends and family see you in a certain light, like you've been a mother or you've worked in this particular career for a long time, and then they see you that way. But if in your heart is trying to get you to do something else, you might be open to that change. But for other people to shift their mindset to see you in a new light, that's really hard. And I think that's something that also holds women back. I also have to tell a story. I was at a women's networking group, and I met this lovely woman who was a few years older than me. And I asked her, what do you do? And she said, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I was kind of surprised by that because, my kids are in college. And I said, oh, really? How old is your child? And she said, well, he's 42. And I was like, okay. And he wasn't even living at home, but she had this definition of herself as a stay-at-home mom. And even though her life had moved on, she hadn't evolved that definition of herself. That was still how she saw herself. And she was very proud of being, not wasn't a stay-at-home mom. She was a single mom. She was very proud that she was a single mom, but she could have been so much more than that because her son is off in a career and doing other things, but she was stuck in this mind frame. So then we spent a lot of time working with her to see all the things she had accomplished since her son had moved on. So it was interesting to see how we get ourselves in one little view and then we don't know how to move that ahead. I
Yeah.
think that's one place where, joining these support groups or accountability groups where people can see you from a different light is so very helpful.
Mm.
Because it's like, you hear that old phrase, like when you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. And you need someone's outside perspective to see all the things that you bring to the party and all your opportunities. So I think finding good support places really help women to move and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. When you take something as your identity, then shifting is very difficult. You think that you are that person rather than you have that position, whether it's a stay-home mom or any other job. And I feel that I'm in that situation right now because I've been a scientist all my life and I've been thinking about shifting. And it's very difficult for others, my mother, my sister. Why are you going to do that? Why do you want to do that? And it's more difficult perhaps for them than for me. Do you think that, again, there is a sense of pride that people, especially those that are close to you and that tend to give you an advice, like a parent, for example, or a sibling, that may say, well, we are so proud of you being in this role. Why are you want to mess, with your life now?
Yeah, that's hard. That confines many people, but you really want your parents to be proud of you for who you are and all that you bring to the table. And I think, often communicating that with them is so important because that's a saboteur. I'm in the process of manifesting that I teach. One of the biggest saboteurs in helping us achieve what we really want is these external factors of friends and family who are trying to keep us in the box that they've created for us instead of understanding, well, we're so much more. This is maybe one element of who we are, but we bring so much more to the table. And just to being able to communicate that and let them know, sort of like you're treating your inner critic, where you acknowledge what they're saying and then appreciate it, but then letting them know that, that is just one aspect of me. And I've been a scientist. I love being a scientist, but now I think I can do something else and bring something more to the party and really evolve in a different way. It's like the acorn doesn't stay the acorn. It grows into a sapling and then it grows into a tree and it reaches for more and beyond. And during your whole life, it's a process of learning and growing and becoming the best you can be. Not just this one little part. Like that part is great. And there's the opportunity for more. So really opening the pathways to see what potential is there and just letting those people know that you appreciate what they're doing and you would really like their continued support as you try these new and different things.
Yeah. I suppose there is a level of fear, because as you change, they need to change to some extent to continue having a relationship that is functional with you. They cannot stay the same and have a different relationship. So something has to change on their side as well. And
Right.
that fear is really what can freeze them. You
Yeah.
just mentioned here living the life that you want. What does it mean for you, living a life that you have imagined and want?
For me, it's real. I really love being able to work with people and help people so that they can blossom to be the best they can, really opening them up for full potential. And that was why I really went to coaching school because I wanted not only myself to open, but I wanted my kids to really feel the freedom to be the best that they can be. And it's funny how some people just have this burning desire inside of them to do more and do different things. And some people are very satisfied with where they are. I have a very good friend, and she's very happy to take care of her husband and take care of her kids, and she's not looking for any more. And just not even just, but being able to recognize where you find your happiness and nurturing that part of you is really terrific. And for me, I find my happiness comes in really helping other people and being able to support them on their journey. I think that is really exciting. So, and when I see like my past clients and how they've blossomed and grown, and even how my kids have blossomed and grown, I feel the ultimate sense of fulfillment.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. So talking about supporting and talking about strategies, for example, how do you help them overcoming all the doubts, all the fears that perhaps they might have, silencing this inner critic, especially at the very beginning? How do you navigate with them that period?
Yeah. And that's something that I've been really working on. In the beginning, I worked a lot on goal setting and making sure that they had something that they were working towards, because that's very motivating and it gives you a reason to get out of bed. But then I found over time that just having a goal wasn't really enough. And that's where I really started to really harness the power of manifesting. And that is something that I really love because it keeps you focused on a bigger picture. So one of the key things that I do with my kids, with my clients, is to focus on your future self. Like, where do you want to be in 10 years or 5 years, depending upon how old they are? And really looking at what kind of person you want to be. How do you want to feel at that time? Tapping into your emotions and using visualization to really see how you want to be in that 5 or 10 year period. And then today, when you're making decisions today, thinking about, okay, how would my future self answer that question? What would my future self do in this position? Instead of thinking, okay, I really want to achieve this goal and I need to do these 5 things. It's looking at, if I want to be this kind of person in the future, these are the things I need to do today to get there. So like if you want to buy a house in 10 years, well, what are the decisions do you make today? Like, do you buy a Starbucks coffee for $6 or $7 every day, or do you bring your own coffee from home? These are small decisions, but in the long term, they make a big impact. So reframing how they're doing things from the future self point, I think has been a really big shift for me, for my kids, and for my clients, to really help them think about, well, like, what do you want to major in college? Like, how do you want your life to be after college? What are the kind of things that you want to think about and spend time with? So, and then making the decisions from that point of view, I think has really been a big shift in all the work that I do, and also with my kids and my family.
Yeah, I suppose it's looking from the future backward instead of looking from where we are into the future, which is sometimes, well, most of the times, in fact, what we tend to do. And
Yeah.
that's very difficult to project yourself into the future while thinking backward. To some extent, is finding the path. And who said that you can only connect the dots looking backward.
Backwards, right.
And
Right.
forward. That's fantastic.
One of the tools that's been really helpful with that is to create vision boards. And so that you can look in magazines and find pictures of things of like how you want to be, and being able to really tap into those emotions. That's been really helpful in creating a good solid image for your future self. I think one person who really talks about it, and I don't know that he uses the word future self, but is that Matthew McConaughey. And someone had asked him, who is your mentor? Who do you listen to? And he said, well, I listen to myself 10 years out. And they asked him that when he was 18. And the guy said, okay. And then when Matthew turned 28, the guy said, well, now you're 28. Now who are you listening to? And he goes, well, I listened to myself, like 30, who's 38 years old, 10 years out. And it's always, looking at the next year, but from your own perspective, because who knows how other people's perspective are going to impact it. And you obviously know yourself better and what are the things you want. So I thought that was interesting to hear him talk about that.
Absolutely. And there is, I think, one particular aspect. You are not going to compare yourself and your achievement with others, which is
Exactly.
perhaps another big thing for most of us, because we see the next person, we see our neighbors, we see our colleagues achieving things that in our mind are greater than what we have, and perhaps we want that. And that comparison keeps us perhaps even stuck. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great point. It really helps you to stay focused on your own journey, which is different from everyone else's journey.
So what essential mindset shifts we need to acquire to project ourselves into our future self, and then stay motivated, if you like, and stay focused on what we want to achieve so we hit that 10-year target?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is developing the skill of observation and seeing how you are in the world, and then understanding how you want to be. Because a lot of times how we are, we don't even notice, we don't even see the pattern. So by thinking from this future perspective, and then becoming observational of our own selves, like sometimes being the fly on the wall to see how you're behaving in this situation, and is that how you want to behave, and how would you change it to be more in the way that's going to lead you to your future self. Developing that skill is really important. Another thing that's really important in terms of moving in that direction, and is another part of manifesting, is really harnessing the power of gratitude and really appreciating the things you have, because what you appreciate then multiplies. And I work with my clients a lot on creating gratitude statements that are really impactful and can help them move forward. And there's really two parts of it: being thankful for the things that you have in the future, feeling the appreciation for it now. Like if you want to lose weight or something and you're thinking about that, really appreciating now, saying, oh, I love being able to fit into a size 6 dress. And then the second part of it is adding a because statement. I love being in a size 6 dress because I feel my best and feel like I can really shine when I'm doing it. So you're adding that thing that Simon Sinek calls is the why, really adding the why statement to why you want things to be like that and how it's going to help you. So in terms of living out your future self, really harnessing the power of gratitude every day and really appreciating the things you have. And it doesn't have to be big things every day. You can appreciate the little things and why they're important for your life and what they're giving you. That's really, really helpful. Also, another thing that's really helpful is understanding how the saboteurs impact you, the limiting voice in your heads, your friends and the family. One of the things that you've probably heard a lot about on your show, because it's something that's so important, but is understanding the 5 friends that you hang out with, that you become like those people. So really selecting the people that you hang out with great care, and being able to set boundaries when they're very negative and bringing you down, because you are having a positive mindset can help you get through things that are difficult. I'm not saying an unrealistic mindset, like you don't want to be Pollyanna about things, but just being positive and finding ways that you can move forward is really helpful in having that growth mindset to move in the direction that you want. And I think another thing that really, really holds people back from their potential is that they have these big desires that they want, but then life offers you little tasty treats along the way, like, oh, maybe you should think about this instead. And that's so much easier to do. And then you get off the path that you're on, and you're distracted by some little things that are going on. And then you have to question, well, if this was really your big desire in the first place, and that's what you really want to do, is this other desire really going to take you where you want to go? And realizing that to get off path like that is not really what you want, and to stay focused on your journey and what you really want to do. So looking at that. And another one is to see the signs and signals along the way. Like sometimes like you get these little synchronicities that happen and you think, oh, wow, this is great. Like running into someone you haven't seen, or finding some information that can take you on your path. So paying attention to signs and signals and how they feed you on your path are really helpful.
That is so interesting. So how do you define success in the context of manifesting your destiny? And what happens if whatever is happening in that moment in your life takes you off-road, and that off-road makes you realize that perhaps what you thought was your destiny is not your destiny, but is something different? So how do you evolve with that understanding? And how do you adjust to that? Do you adjust?
Yeah. So I can give you a story on that. Like, I've been doing this coaching business since 2010. And along the way, I was spending a lot of time writing the copy for my website and making flyers about what I was doing. And so then I thought, oh, I should take a class in copywriting so I can be better at this. So then I got into this copywriting class where it was all copywriters and me. And then I thought, oh, I should be a copywriter. Like, now I'm really good and I really honed this skill. So I spent several years as a copywriter. But the thing was, it was a skill I was trying to learn to improve my coaching business and to help me to reach the clients that I want. So it really took me off my path. But then eventually I came around again to back where I wanted to be, and realized that, okay, this is just a tool that I have. It's not how I want to spend my time. And when I was doing the copywriting, okay, I was good at it, but it just didn't light my fire. Like, I didn't really care about these things I was writing about. It was just something I had to do. And so that's a message that just because you can do it doesn't mean that that's what you should be doing. You can do a lot of different things. So really focusing on, where's your passion? Is this really making my heart sing? And when you get that sense of your heart singing, that's where you really feel like you're a success. So when I'm working with someone and I can help them identify their limiting beliefs and help them remove the blocks so they can move forward, then it makes my heart sing and opens up and fills with love for this person. And that for me, that's the success that I want. That's what I'm looking for. And it has nothing to do with copywriting.
That's absolutely beautiful. Alicia, if there were now listeners that were unsatisfied, unfulfilled with their own lives, but still are hesitant in making any significant life changes, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think it's really important, especially for women, is that we have these seasons in our lives and we need to focus on different things at different times. So I had said I wanted to be a coach, but then my mother had Alzheimer's and lived with me for 8 years. So I couldn't spend a lot of time coaching and really building my business because I needed to take care of her. And then there were times where my kids really needed me to be there for them. So that was a different season of my life. So understanding that you have seasons and to enjoy the season while you're in it. And your life is, like a flower that's blossoming, and it takes a while for the whole thing to open up to be your greatest sense of what you want to do. And your time will come, but just to really enjoy the present moment while you're there, and don't always be thinking of other things that you want to do, but take time to enjoy the present. Otherwise, your life goes by and you're striving for future things and you're not enjoying the present. So it's good to have like a future goal that you're working on, but at the same time, living your life in the present and then taking the time to enjoy it. Like, I would spend time sitting down with my mom and listening to the music with her, even though I really wanted to be doing these other things, but then finding that time and joy, because you also don't want to have the regret on the back end of not spending the time. And I spent so much time with my kids, reading books to them and playing with them and doing things. And I mean, I could have been spending time building my business, but really it brings me such joy for all the time that I spent with them. So really focusing on what season of the life you're in right now, and enjoying that and living that with gusto is going to really bring you the greatest happiness, I think.
That's absolutely beautiful, because I mean, you mentioned regret, and you can have regret either way, regret of not spending time with your children, regret of not spending enough time building your business. So we create all these emotions, all these feelings that are at the very least disempowering and not really helpful. So I wanted to ask you about forgiveness and self-forgiveness, which is a concept very important, obviously, for this podcast, and how this builds into thriving. And what do you think about that? And in particular, accepting and letting go of all these negative emotions or disempowering emotions. And in particular, what role can it have in finding that peace or inner peace to embrace change and go after whatever we want to achieve?
Yeah. Finding forgiveness is so important, because you're like a vessel and you have so much energy in your vessel. And if you hold anger or hostility or something towards someone else, then you're using your energy to hold that down because you don't want to explode out. And then you don't have energy to do the other things where you can thrive and blossom and do the things that you're meant to do while you're here. So by being able to come to terms with whatever happened that you're holding this anger for, by being able to offer forgiveness and acceptance and move on. I mean, that's such a big part about the Alcoholics Anonymous, is just to being able to talk to people and forgive them for everything that's happened. And that frees up your energy and allows your creativity to really blossom, and that will enable you to thrive. So instead of holding in all those feelings, by just saying, I forgive you, and you don't even have to have the person acknowledge you back, but just giving the forgiveness out and just letting it go frees you up to really thrive and become who you're meant to be, because now your energy is free and able to do other things. So forgiveness is really pivotal in becoming the best person that you can be, and really can help you just to feel grounded and whole. And that this is another part where meditation really comes in handy, just to being able to sit quietly and focus on breathing and grounding yourself, because that enables you to get into your subconscious and find out what are those blocks that are holding you. And by discovering those blocks, then you can find forgiveness in dealing with them and offering them up. And that frees you up in your energy to do so much more. So forgiveness is very enabling.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love what you just said, because it's really, for me, the main concept of this podcast is something that comes from a personal experience. I wasn't thriving. I was at best surviving until I started a forgiveness journey, forgiveness of others, but most importantly, forgiveness of myself. And then to start thriving again. So thank you very much for highlighting that. Are there any other advices, perhaps, or information, feedback that you would like to give to anybody who is considering perhaps stepping in the best version of themselves just after 50?
Yeah, I really think it's important to be, in order to become the best person you can be, just accepting yourself with all of your flaws, and still being able to know that you can do more and become more. There's still so much life that's coming out with you. 50 is just like a new gateway to, now you let go of the childbearing years and all these other things that have been shackling you, and now you can find a release and really step into who you want to be, because you have the time and the energy. And when you also add on top of that your will and desire to do these things and to be creative and let your creativity flow, even if you start doing something small, little, like if you want to be a writer, just writing 3 sentences a day, or if you want to be an artist, just having your art tools out and about so you can see them, and spending a few minutes thinking about what you want to do, like taking really small steps in the direction you want to go, makes a huge difference. It doesn't have to be a big major shift all at once, but just taking small steps along the path is really going to help free you up to accomplish what you want to do. Whatever it is you want to do, like even if it's just like getting in shape, doing, like 3 pounds and starting with a small exercise, it's going to make a difference. So I really encourage all of your listeners to really tap into what it is they truly desire, and just take small steps forward. So even when my kids were small and my mother was living with me and there was complete chaos in the house, I could just read a few pages of my book and find some solace there and try to apply the things I was learning. And that made a big difference. So
Absolutely.
it is possible. It's not possible all at the same time, but small steps along the way can really help you to thrive.
Absolutely. You are never too old for trying something new and something that really makes you happy and fulfilled.
Exactly.
Absolutely love this message. Alicia, coming back to you, is there anything particular that you are working now or planning, or anything else that you would like to share with us about what you're doing?
Well, I think the power of manifesting your desires is really exciting, and I really encourage people to look into how they can use manifesting to really reach their desires, because it gives you kind of a pathway to follow. And one of the things that I really want people to know is, you hear about manifesting from The Secret, and The Secret really didn't tap into the key element of manifesting, and that is in taking inspired actions. And that was what I was talking about before, taking the small steps forward. But whatever it is you want, taking inspired actions every day is really the secret to creating the best life for you that's possible. So looking at manifesting as a way to bring that back by having a clear view of what you want, and being able to deal with the saboteurs in a constructive way, and really appreciating and being in a state of gratitude, and then taking inspired actions is really going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. So I think I'm excited. I'm very excited about manifesting, and I want more people to understand the strength that it offers and how it can empower you on your journey.
Well, that is fantastic. So if people would like to know more about it and perhaps get in touch with you, where can they find you? What is the best way?
Well, I'm haunting Instagram. Yeah. So I'm at Alicia_Berberich on Instagram, and they can find out about me there, or on my website, aliciaberberich.com are the two main places.
Fantastic. And as always, we will put all the links in the description of today's episodes. Now, Alicia, final question, very final question. If there was one take-home message that you would love everybody to remember from this conversation, what that would be?
The biggest message I would want people to go home with is that they are not their past. You are not your past. Your past is past. Instead, start where you are and move forward, and look to the future and where you want to go. Don't be carrying all that old baggage. Release that old baggage and move forward and become the best you can be. The past does not define you. You can create the you want.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. Well, whether you are in the midst of the emptiness phase, approaching your 50s, or well beyond, I hope that this episode has convinced you that your destiny is a journey that continues to unfold, and your story is far from over. With the right mindset, support, and determination, you can manifest the life you have always dreamed of. And I want to leave you with a quote from George Eliot, who said, "It's never too late to be who you might have been." Alicia, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, for sharing so much about yourself and what you do, and your very positive message. I loved every moment of our conversation. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, it was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Well, we would like to know what you think about this topic. Are you, or someone perhaps you know, dealing with the challenges of crossing the midlife line? If so, how is it going? Let us know. Also, don't forget to check Alicia's website, her work, and to follow her on social media. You will find all the links in the description of today's episode. Join me next time when we will continue exploring inspiring and challenging situations. Because remember, we are together in this journey. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell and like this video. See you in the next one.